Hello everyone, sorry for the delay. Now let's jump straight into the class. Now today we are going to look at yet another current affairs class on important topics that are important for the upcoming prelims examination. Now before going on to the topics itself, let me give you a brief introduction about myself as well as about Unacademy. See, my name is Aravind. I completed my BE Mechanical Engineering in 2014 and I have almost 3 years of experience in teaching UPSC Civil Services and I have experienced all stages of UPSC Civil Services, that is prelims, mains and then interview. Now my specialization subjects include polity, international relations and then current affairs. Now if you have any doubts regarding my classes or if you want to know more about my classes or when I'm about to take my classes, you can join this group Unacademy underscore Aravind. Here I will update regularly the schedule of my class or if you have any doubts regarding my classes, you can ask your doubts in this Telegram group. Okay. Now what will you get by subscribing for Unacademy? By subscribing for Unacademy, you will get access to daily live classes where you get to watch those classes, you can rewatch them and then ask doubts then and there itself. Okay. So now this rewatchability feature, if you know, it is not available in your offline class here. If you want to revisit your old classes or if you have any doubts regarding your old classes, with offline classes you cannot do that, but with Unacademy you can do that. And then Unacademy conducts live tests as well as quizzes almost on a daily basis so that students get to test themselves based on examination point of view. And also Unacademy conducts courses. Almost all courses in Unacademy are structured courses so that the lesson plan will go properly from A to B to C to D. Okay, so that the learning process for the students becomes much easier and then less confusing. And then once you're subscribed for Unacademy, you will get unlimited access to videos concerned with examination that you're subscribing for. So if you're subscribing for UPSC examination, you will get unlimited videos that are concerned with UPSC examination. Now, Unacademy as a platform serves as a platform where top educators like Mrunal Patel, Mudit Gupta, Ayush Sanghi, all these top educators, they get to share their knowledge with students who hail from all over India. Okay, so that's the job of Unacademy. It congregates all top educators in a particular examination field, and then these top educators they get to share their knowledge with students who hail from all over India. And also, Unacademy covers syllabus in a very comprehensive manner so that every nook and corner of UPSC syllabus will be covered by Unacademy. Not only that, the same syllabus will be covered by multiple faculty so that if you are not satisfied with one faculty, you can immediately switch over to another faculty. So, in a way, Unacademy is trying to democratize the entire learning process itself. Okay. Now, I suggest you guys download the Unacademy learning app so that you can keep a better track of your learning goals, how much time you're spending with Unacademy, or if your favorite teacher is about to take a class in Unacademy, you'll get an immediate notification in your learning app. Okay, so download Unacademy learning app so that you can keep a better track of your learning goals. Now, these are the amounts charged by Unacademy for plus subscription. Okay. Now, if you look at the amounts charged by Unacademy, this is very less compared to offline institutions where you have to spend upwards of 4 to 5 lakh rupees on things like fees, food, rent. But with Unacademy, not only the fee part is very less, but you won't be spending a dime on rent as well as food because you can learn from the comfort of your home itself. There is with Unacademy, there is no need for you to go from your city or village to another city for learning UPSC. Okay, if you want to learn UPSC with Unacademy, you can learn from the comfort of your home itself. Now, on top of very meager sum that Unacademy is charging you, if you're using my code Aravind V, you will get 10% as offer. Okay, so instead of paying 44,000 rupees, you'll pay only 39,600 rupees. Okay, so students either go for 1 year plan or 2 year plan. Okay, why? Because one month the amount that you will be paying per month for 1 year and 12 months plans is very less. Not only that, if you are preparing for UPSC, you have to prepare almost for 1 to 2 years, which require constant preparation from your part. Okay, so going for either 1 year plan or 2 year plan will be much advisable for you. And also, Unacademy has recently introduced iconic platform where Unacademy will provide you with a personal coach. Now, this personal coach is some of the most experienced faculty in UPSC field. Okay, so they know all about how to clear UPSC, what kind of struggles will students face when they are preparing for UPSC. All these things they know. Okay, so based on their experience, they will guide you through the process of clearing UPSC. And then, apart from personal coach, Unacademy also gives you with a daily means question and answer practice based on your performances. They will give you personalized feedback based on the practice, and then an academy based on your personalized study schedule, they will give you a study planner. Okay. Now, even with iconic platform, if you're using my code Aravind V, you'll get 10% as offer. Okay, so that's it, everyone. That's introduction and promotion done away with. Let's move on to today's class. Okay, let's move on to today's class. Now, in we have discussed in our last class these three topics. Okay, we have discussed in our last class these three topics: NPS in self-help group, right code for labor, role of NGOs. All these things we discussed in our last class itself. Now, in today's class, we are going to discuss the role of parliamentary committees. What is the role of parliamentary committees in Indian democracy? And then we will look at Kakatiya dynasty, Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Abraham Accord, and then a need for fiscal council. So these are the topics that we are going to look today. Okay. Give me a moment here. Now, the topic that we're going to look today is the first topic that we're going to look today is the role of parliamentary committees. Now, why was this topic in news? Because recently the government has passed two agricultural bills in Rajya Sabha. However, opposition protested against the fact that neither these agricultural bills have been scrutinized by a parliamentary committee. Okay, so look at some key points regarding this parliamentary committees. Now, if you look at these parliamentary committees, parliament scrutinizes legislative bills in two ways. One, the first way is by discussing it on the floor of the two houses. This is a legislative requirement. All bills have to taken up for debate. Okay, so what is the procedure for passing the bill? A bill will be introduced by any MP in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Okay, in the first of it will go to first reading, second reading, and then third reading. Okay, so this is called as discussion. Discussion. Okay, the first way is by discussing it on the floor of the two houses. Now, the second way for Parliament to scrutinize a certain bill is by means of sending a particular bill to parliamentary committee. Now, in second stage, what the speaker will do is that the speaker will refer this bill to a parliamentary committee for further scrutiny. Now, a parliamentary committee means that a committee that is appointed or elected by the House or nominated by the Speaker or Chairman. Now, parliamentary committee works under the direction of Speaker or Chairman. Now, parliamentary committee presents its report to the House or to the Speaker or Chairman. Now, parliamentary committee has also a secretariat provided by the either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Now, Sivajani, good morning, Sivajani. Uh, After a long time, you are coming to the class, it seems. Welcome again. Now, what is the purpose of parliamentary committees? Okay, what is the purpose of parliamentary committee? Now, since parliament meets only 70 to 80 days in a year, there is not enough time to discuss each and every bill in detail on the floor of the house. Plus, the debate in the house is mostly political and does not go into the technical details of legislative proposal. Therefore, it takes care of legislative infirmity of the debate on the floor house. However, referring bills to the parliamentary committees is not mandatory. Okay. Now, what are the different types of parliamentary committees that are there in Indian Parliament? Now, India's Parliament has multiple types of committees. They can be differentiated on the basis of their work, their membership, and the length of their tenure. However, there are broadly three types of parliamentary committees: standing committees and ad hoc committees. And if you look at the standing committees are permanent, constituted every year or periodically, and they work on a continuous basis. Now, the standing committees can be classified into the following six categories: financial committees, departmental standing committees, committees to inquire, committees to scrutinize and control, committees related to day-to-day business of the house, housekeeping committees, or service committees. Okay, so the standing committees can be further classified into these six categories. Now, while ad hoc committees are temporary and cease to exist on the completion of the tasks that are assigned to them. Now, ad hoc committees are further subdivided into enquiry committee and then advisory committee. Okay, ad hoc committees are further divided into enquiry committee and advisory committee. Okay, so these are the different types of parliamentary committees. Okay. Now, what is the procedure for referring a bill to parliamentary committee? Now, there are three broad paths by which a bill can reach a parliamentary committee. The minister introducing the bill recommends to the House that the bill be examined such uh, by a select committee of one house, that is either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, of the joint or a joint committee of both houses. Okay, so the minister who is introducing this bill can request this bill be scrutinized by a select parliamentary committee, which can consist of members only from one house or members from both the houses. Now, the presiding officer of the house can also send the bill to a parliamentary committee. So, apart from the minister requesting this bill sending to a parliamentary committee, the speaker also can send this particular bill to a parliamentary committee. Now, a bill passed by one house can be sent by the other house to a select committee. Now, the report of the committee is of recommendatory nature. The government can either choose to accept or reject the recommendations of this select committee, and then the committee can also suggest its own version of the bill as well. Okay, so this is the procedure regarding sending the bill to parliamentary committees. Okay. Okay, so that's it everyone with regards to this topic. If you have any doubts regarding this topic, you can ask in the chat section. I will give you 1 minute to ask your doubts. After that, I'm moving on to the next topic. Okay. Please ask your doubts, everyone. After that, I will move on to the next topic. Okay. Okay. Since no one is asking doubts, I've assumed that you guys have understood something, and then okay. So I'm moving on to the next topic. Okay. Now the next topic is regarding Kakatiya dynasty. Now, why was this dynasty news? Because recently a temple constructed by the Emperor Ganapati Deva, a mighty ruler of Kakatiya dynasty in Dharmikota, Andhra Pradesh, have been converted into an adobe of local goddess or Balasulama, goddess Durga. Okay, so the recent temple considered by this mighty ruler Ganapati Deva have been constructed into a adobe of local goddess Balasulama or goddess Durga. Now, the presiding deity at 13th century temple was Kakati Devi, the tutelary deity of Kakatiya rulers. Due to ravages of time and for no upkeep, the presiding deity got damaged. The villagers of Dharnikota, who had no knowledge about the past of the temple, installed Balasulama idol and started worshipping in this temple. Okay. What are some key points regarding this Kakatiya dynasty? Now, Kakatiyas is an Andhra dynasty that flourished between 12th century CE. Now Kakatiya dynasty ruled from Warangal from CE 1083 to 1323. Now Kakatiya rulers were known for the construction of network of tanks for irrigation as well as drinking water, thereby giving a boost to the overall development of Andhra Pradesh region. Now, Telangana has launched a massive rejuvenation movement in the form of Mission Kakatiya, which involves restoration of irrigation tanks and lakes, minor irrigation sources built by Kakatiya dynasty. Now, there are hundreds of Hindu temples built by under the patronage of Kakatiya kings like Ganapati Deva, Rudrama Devi, Prataparuda of Kakatiya dynasty, etc. Okay, so there have been number of temples built by this Kakatiya dynasty rulers. Now, thousand pillar temple or Uttreswara Swami temple in Telangana. It is a star-shaped triple shrine dedicated to Vishnu, Shiva as well as Surya. Okay. Now, another important temple built during Kakatiya dynasty is Ramappa temple in Warangal of Telangana. Now, another important place that was considered during Kakatiya dynasty is Golconda Fort in Hyderabad. This was also considered during Kakatiya rulers. Later, this fort became to be known as the capital of Qutub Shahi kings who ruled from 1518 to 1687. Okay. Now that's it with regards to Kakatiya dynasty. That's it with regards to this topic. Okay. Now we will move on to the next topic. The next topic that we are going to discuss is Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Abraham Accord. Now, why was this accord in news? Because the Abraham Accord between the countries like Israel, UAE, and Bahrain was mediated by the USA. Now, it is the first Arab-Israeli peace deal in over 26 years. Okay, so that's why it assumes a lot of significance. If you look at Middle East, it's a constant bickering between Israel and other Middle Eastern countries. Now, because of this bickering, this new accord assumes a significant importance because it is the first deal that was brokered between Israeli and other Middle Eastern countries in over 26 years. Now, what are the key points regarding this accord? Okay. Now, there are certain previous agreements before this accord. These previous agreements were only two peace deals between Israel and Arab states in more than a quarter of century. Egypt was the first Arab state to sign a peace deal with Israel in 1979, a bit after Israel-Egypt War of 1979. And also after Egypt, Jordan also signed a peace pact with Israel in 1994. So these are the only two peace pacts that were signed between Israel and Arab countries. But after a gap of 26 years, Israel has signed an accord with UAE as well as Bahrain. Well, let's look at some key points regarding this agreement. See, as per the agreement, the UAE and Bahrain will establish embassies and exchange ambassadors in Israel, and also they will work together with Israel across a range of sectors, including tourism, trade, healthcare, as well as security. And also, these Abraham Accords also open the door for Muslims around the world to visit historic sites in Israel and to peacefully pray at Al Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, the third holiest site in Islam. In Islamic tradition, the Kaaba in Mecca is considered the holiest site, followed by the Prophet's Mosque in Medina and Al Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Now, Israel has opened its door for Muslims in these countries to visit Al Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Okay. Now, let's take a look at reason why this accord was signed. Because bringing Israel, UAE, and Bahrain together reflects their shared concern about Iran's rising influence in the region and development of ballistic missiles by the Iran. Now, Iran has been critical of all these three countries as well as this deal as well. Okay, now if you look at this Arab-Israel relation, since Israel independence in 1948, it has fought several wars with Arab neighboring countries. Now, the persecuted Jews saw Israel as their promised home, while Arabs saw this Israel as an occupying nation. Okay, so this is the foundation of bitter relationship between Arab countries as well as Israel. Okay. Now, what is the significance of this accord? Now, the agreement shows how Arab countries are gradually decoupling themselves from Palestine question. Now, Palestine was among the former Ottoman territories placed in the UK administration by the League of Nations in 1922. All of these territories eventually became fully independent states except Palestine. Okay. Now, full diplomatic ties will be established between Israel, UAE, and Bahrain, which will have a positive impact on the entire region. Now, this deal also buys UAE a lot of goodwill in the USA, where its image have been tarnished by its involvement in the Yemen war. Now, in South Asia, it will put Pakistan in a bind whether to follow UAE steps, which will be seen as giving up of Islamic cause of Palestine, or to follow UAE or not to follow UAE, since it is already in feud with Saudis over the taking up of Kashmiri case. Pakistan cannot afford another hostile country in this Middle East region. Okay. Now, in the upcoming presidential election in USA, the accord could help shore up support among pro-Israel Christian evangelical voters, an important part of the current president's political base. Now there are also more deals that are about to be negotiated between these two countries. Other Gulf states in the region like Oman could also follow suit and sign similar agreements with Israel because of this arrangement. One of the biggest Gulf Arab supporters, Saudi Arabia, could also follow suit as well. Now, what is the concern regarding this deal? The Palestinians have not embraced USA's vision. 86% of Palestinians believe that the normalization agreement between UAE serves only Israel's interest and not Palestinians' interest. There is a possibility that Palestinian question is further ignored because of this deal. Now, Shia Sunni rifts in the region may get wide and violent. Now, if you look at this deal, it is a deal signed between Israel as a country and Sunni countries like UAE and Bahrain. Okay. Now there is a possibility that the division between Sunni and Shia countries will further even more because of this deal. Now Saudi Arabia, Sunni country, and Iran, which represents Shia community, have a long history of enmity. Now for decades, one of the main sources of this instability in West Asia have been Cold War between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Now, this Sunni Shia rivalry may also provoke violence between Muslims in places such as Pakistan and Nigeria and Indonesia. Okay, so these are the concerns regarding this deal, everyone. Okay, so see here, this is Israel. This is Israel, and Israel has signed a deal between UAE and Bahrain. Okay, now if you look at the division of uh, uh, countries based on what is a religious predisposition, these countries, okay, uh, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Oman, Yemen, these are predominantly Sunni countries, and Iran and Iraq, they are predominantly not Iraq. Iran to the most extent, they are predominantly Shia countries. Iraq also is predominantly it is almost equal. It has equal Shia as well as Sunni population. Okay. So that's how these countries are divided based on religious predisposition. Now, if you look at India's interest in West Asia, uh, West Asia occupies an important position in international relations due to its geographical relations as well as proximity to continents such as South Asia, China, Central Asia, Europe, and Africa. Okay. Now, another important geopolitical importance of West Asia for India is that the region is strategically significant due to its enormous energy resources, trade route links to different parts of the world. It is the world's largest oil producing region, accounting for 34% of world's oil production and 45% of crude oil exports and 48% of proven oil reserves. And also, there is a significant amount of Indian expatriates. They have been constituted a substantial share of regional labor market in this Middle Eastern region. Now, the remittances from this region could constitute a major chunk of total remittances to India. Now, what are the opportunities for India because of this Abraham Accord? One is defense and security. Uh, India should use this unexpected opportunity to give itself a bigger role in the region, which is its strategic backyard. The first step should be to ramp up defense and security relationship with UAE. Now, Israel is already a very close defense partner with India. While some of the work has already been happening, India should leverage its economy for a bigger opening in this region. Importantly, India can use its good officers to ensure that any future drill on a regional security framework gives adequate space to Iran, which may be weak but not so weak that it cannot be a hugely disruptive power if it so chooses. Okay. Now, what is the way forward for India regarding this deal? Now, a balance between Shia and Sunni, between Persian and Arab nations is key to any sustainable peace. Without conciliating between these two blocks in Middle East, any meaningful peace cannot be achieved. Now, US may be preeminent power in the Middle East, but Russia has made a space for itself, spending a lot less money. In recent years, China has also indicated its willingness to play a larger role in this region, and it is close to both UAE and Israel, and increasingly with Saudi Arabia as well. Now, India should make its move before this market and extend neighborhood come under Chinese sphere of influence. Now, a deal that could, if played right, open the doors for a changed geopolitical arrangement in the Middle East should have a stronger impact on Indian footprint. Okay. Okay, so that's it everyone with regards to this topic. Okay. If you have any doubts regarding this topic, please ask your doubts in the chat section and I will try to answer your doubts. Okay. If you're not asking doubts, I will move on to the next topic. Okay. Now this is the last topic for today, everyone. The need for a fiscal council. This is the last topic for today. Need for a fiscal council. Okay, time's up, everyone. I'm giving you ample amount of time to ask your doubts. Okay. So the next topic that we're going to discuss today is a need for a fiscal council. See, according to recent estimates of Comptroller Audit General of India, the fiscal deficit of central government in 2019-20 period will near 4.6 percentage, of which 0.8 percentage higher than revised estimate. Now, further fiscal deficit will tend to increase in this financial year due to economic slowdown as well as amid COVID-19 pandemic. Now, given this deteriorating state of fiscal health, NK Singh Committee in 2017 suggested establishing an independent fiscal council. Now, similar recommendations were moved by the 13th as well as 14th Finance Commissions, which also advocated for establishment of independent fiscal agencies to review the government's adherence to fiscal rules and also to provide adequate assessment of budget proposals. Now, therefore, in order to follow the path of fiscal consolidation and prudence, there is a need to look into the prospects, challenges that are moving to fiscal council. Okay. Now, what is this fiscal council? Now, this fiscal council is an independent fiscal institution with a mandate to promote stable as well as sustainable public finances. Now, this institution of fiscal council assists in calibrating sustainable fiscal policy by making an objective as well as scientific analysis of fiscal needs of the government. Now, what will be the important tasks of fiscal council? Now, the important tasks of fiscal council will include things such as independent analysis, review and monitoring and evaluating of government fiscal policies and programs, developing or reviewing macroeconomic or budgetary projections, costing of budget and policy proposals and programs, presenting policymakers with alternative policy options. Okay, so these are the important tasks of fiscal councils. Now, what is the need for having a fiscal council? Okay, why fiscal council is very much needed. The first reason why fiscal council is needed because of mismatched budgets. Historically, interim budgets in India have been consistently overestimated revenue growth and underestimated expenditure growth. An analysis of projected, revised as well as actual budget figures since 1991 by Economic and Political Weekly Research Foundation showed that the deviations from the budget estimates tend to be extraordinarily high for budget estimates presented in interim budgets. Okay, so the budget estimates provided in interim budgets are tend to be extraordinarily high. Now, summarily, the finance ministry's overall record in forecasting projections have been consistently poor under the successive finance ministries in a regular budgets too. Now, the finance ministry tends to overstate the revenue projections and understate expenditures in regular budgets. Okay, so government will consistently overstate how much revenue that government is getting from tax sources, non-tax sources, all these things. But also they will underestimate the expenditure undertaken by government. Okay, since there is a constant underreporting and over-reporting of both expenditure as well as revenue, what will happen? Mismatch will happen in budget. Okay, so because of this mismatch, what will happen? Fiscal deficit will even increase further. Now, another reason why we need a fiscal council is because of tax maladministration and over ambitious revenue targets combined with a lack of transparency in tax administration make the taxmen to exceed their authorities to fulfill unrealistic targets. Okay, so by government by setting an unrealistic revenue demand, what will happen? It will put unrealistic expectations on the taxmen to fulfill their revenue targets which are unrealistic. So what will happen because of this? A phenomenon called as tax terrorism will happen. Okay, so taxmen, income tax authorities will try to extract maximum amount of tax as much as possible. Okay, they will exploit all loopholes that is there in the tax law. Okay, this is called as tax terrorism. This will happen mainly because of mismatched budgets. Now, in 2017, a CAG report found that tax department have resorted to irregular and unwarranted methods to meet their tax targets. Okay. Now, this is also another reason why we need fiscal council. Now, another reason why we need fiscal council is because of dressing up of fiscal numbers. Now, when the government fails to meet its revenue or expenditure targets, it resorts to different cover-up strategies. Now, if oil bonds were the instrument of choice to dress up fiscal deficit number earlier, now the preferred mode of financing the deficit is by means of disinvestment of public sector enterprises to boost the stakes sale by the government. And the country's biggest insurance, Life Insurance Corporation of India, have been the biggest lifeline of country's disinvestment program in recent years. Now, also there can be a coordination between GST Council as well as Finance Commission. Now, the GST Council normally have no clue of what Finance Commission is doing, and Finance Commission has even lesser clue of what GST Council is doing. So, there is a need for coordination between Finance Commission as well as GST Council. Now, Fiscal Council can will serve the purpose of coordinating between Finance Commission as well as GST Council. Okay. Another need for having fiscal council is limiting the borrowings of central government. Now, Article 293 provides a constitutional check over the borrowings by the state government, but there is no such restrictions on central government. Now, fiscal council can very well regulate the borrowings of central government. Now, what are the benefits of having this fiscal council? One, it can lead to more transparency. An unbiased report to Parliament helps to raise level of debate and brings in greater transparency with regards to public money. Now, fiscal council can also discourage populist shift of government expenditure. An independent analysis of various policies and programs can help avoid political culture of populist spending for political gains and would improve objectivity among government policies. And also, fiscal council can also raise public awareness. Scientific estimates of cost of programs, assessment of forecasts could help in raise of public awareness about fiscal implications and make people understand the nature of budgetary constraints. And also, another advantage of fiscal council is it can boost accuracy. Now, presence of an independent fiscal council tends to boost accuracy of fiscal projections and helps countries stick to their fiscal rules better. In this way, the Fiscal Council will work as a conscience speaker in monitoring rules-based policies. And also, Fiscal Council can bring in about more accountability. Fiscal councils in most countries are able to discipline lawmakers through comply or explain obligations, which entails government to at least explain why they diverge from fiscal council's views, and thus it brings in about more accountability. Okay, so these are the perceived benefits of having fiscal council in India. Now, what are the challenges with fiscal council? It dilutes finance ministry's authority. Forcing finance ministry to use someone else's estimates will dilute the accountability of finance ministry. Now, if the estimates go wrong, it will simply shift the blame to fiscal council. Okay. Now, another challenge with fiscal council is that the executive control of elected government. It is also believed that it will prevent the government from molding its fiscal rules depending upon the situation and need. It may create a rigid rules for fiscal prudence because of existence of fiscal council. Now, what is the conclusion regarding this issue? Now, there is a need for systems and institutions to ensure checks and balances in the system for a greater good. The government borrows and spends more in order to support its welfare program or sometimes to further their own political agendas. This means a steep rise in debt which will jeopardize the medium term growth prospects, an issue prominently flagged by all rating agencies in recent evaluations. A fiscal council will help in improving comprehensiveness, transparency, and accountability of budgetary data, and will also fix this issue of uh, mismanagement of budgetary data. Okay. Now, if you look at here, these are the averages of emerging countries. Okay, if you look at the fiscal deficit of India and emerging countries, fiscal deficit of India is consistently higher compared to other emerging markets. Okay, as a result of this higher fiscal deficit, the interest payments also very high compared to other emerging markets because of this. Okay, now let's take a look at some main question. Now let's take a look at this main question regarding fiscal council. Now, fiscal council is a step towards fixing government's accountability and fiscal transparency. Discuss. Okay. So now please write this answer, everyone, and send your answer to in the Telegram group, and I will evaluate your answer as much as possible. Okay. So please practice this answer and send your answers to the Telegram group. Okay. Okay, so that's it, everyone. We have finished today's class. We have finished the today's class. Okay, I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes to ask your doubts. After that, I'm going to end this stream. If you have any doubts, please ask your doubts right now. After that, I'm going to end this stream. Okay, everyone, I've given ample amount of time to ask your doubts. Okay, since you guys are not asking doubts, okay, I've assumed that you've understood everything.